Have you ever come across a boss or a person who initially during the first few interactions was very polite, gentle, kind, humble, very shy, and also kind of introvert kind of personality? And as you got to know the person a little more closely, as your interactions with the person increased, as the layers started peeling off, you could feel that there is a different personality which is showing up, and it does not resonate with the same judgment that you gave in the initial few interactions with the later judgment that you could observe through his or her behavior. There is a saying, there is one disorder in which everybody except the patient needs to go to the for the therapy, and that is narcissistic personality disorder. And God forbid, if you ever come across a covert narcissist, your head will be messed up so badly that you'll start doubting your own authenticity. You'll start questioning your own reality. And once you come out of this tornado kind of cycle, you look back and wonder, was it even real? Was it an illusion? That kind of messing up with your head happens if you ever come in close contact with a covert narcissist. Hi, I'm Dr. Meenu, helping you better understand your own childhood traumas, your core wounds, and also understand that there are people who are carrying such core wounds, who you might be interacting with, who might turn out to be somebody who is totally damaged and can cause further damage to your own psyche, your own brain, your own life in some cases. So it is important to identify such people and walk stress-free, anxiety-free and depression-free on this planet. There are few things which I need to clarify before I start with this video. We all to some extent carry small spectrums of certain traits which I'm going to discuss during this video. It does not imply that at any point of time, if you feel that this trait resonates with me, so am I a narcissist? No, it does not imply, because as far as narcissistic disorder is concerned, the person shows a repetitive characteristic. So all those traits which I am discussing will be in a repetitive form, and not only with just one or two people. It is the case with almost every victim that the person chooses to manipulate and control. Also, as I said, spectrum will be high and the frequency will be too repetitive. Also remember that even if I am referring to the gender as his in the entire video, it does not mean that only I am referring to masculine energy. I am also referring to that the person can be female also, because now as per the latest reports and surveys conducted in Los Angeles, it has been found that the number of female narcissistic people are also increasing tremendously. Earlier, because most of the females were operating from home, in the sense they were homemakers, but today as and when more and more women are getting into successful positions, the narcissistic traits, the narcissistic characteristics can be found in several females. So although the statistics is not very clear, there is no equal numbers that you can find male versus female, but yes, females are less and males are more. But in any case, through this video, I'm not referring in any case to one particular gender. It is for both the genders that I'm referring to as narcissism. Also, videos like these are in no way meant to dehumanize anyone. My attempt through these videos is to sensitize people who are codependents, super empaths or super sensitives, to identify the patterns or toxic relationships that they fall into. Because the problem with codependents, empaths and super sensitives is that once they get plugged into a relationship, once they get hooked on to a relationship, they start trying harder to make the relationship work. They ignore the red flags, they ignore all the toxicities in the relationship, and they feel that it is their duty to please the person. It is their duty to seek validation from the person. They fear saying no. They get into a toxic pattern wherein it was not their mistake, because due to the childhood programming, they were taught that their feelings are not valid, their emotions are invalid, that they are invisible, that they are not worthy, that they are not lovable. Because of all those childhood programming, they first gravitate towards these wrong and toxic relationships, and once they get plugged into these relationships, they start trying harder rather than trying to detach themselves emotionally or walk away from such relationship. They start trying harder. Why? Because they have those abandonment issues, they have those fear of rejection stemming from their childhood. Therefore, for them it is all the more important to identify that these kind of pain versus pleasure cycles might be adding on to their stress, and this stress over a period of time causes terminal diseases. The research has gone out to prove that consistent stress for a long period of time causes terminal diseases like cancer, asthma, arthritis. So my dears, to save your soul, this video of covert narcissism is basically to understand and identify certain traits in those human beings. They could be your bosses, they could be somebody, some relative in your home, they could be some business partner. You have to identify if they have these kind of traits, and you go through the same cycle of pain versus pleasure. It is right time to go into your childhood programming, understand, identify, first work on yourself, remove the heal yourself from the codependent trait, and then identify that you are in a wrong relationship. You have to detach yourself emotionally, and if possible you may even have to walk away from certain very toxic cycles. Also, please do not take these traits or signs as a substitute for medical care and treatment. I would suggest that for specific cases, visit your therapist and seek proper counseling. When it comes to narcissistic traits, you would observe that there are 3 or 4 common traits that all narcissists, irrespective of whether he's a covert, overt, malignant, or whichever narcissist he is, they all carry, communal narcissists, they all carry the same traits. That is high level of manipulation, high level of control in every relation. They also have lack of empathy. Yes, sadly they cannot feel how the other person is going to feel when I hurt them or when I'm being unkind to them. And also apart from this, they have this feeling of grandiosity. You know, they feel that everybody around me is meant to please me and they are all beneath me. I am next to God. So those basic traits come with all forms of narcissistic characters. But in case of covert narcissism, the problem is these traits sometimes they come with a mask, and by the time this mask slips off, it takes sometimes months, sometimes years, and the codependent is already hooked into or plugged into the relationship. And therefore by then, if it is the plugging is already happened, the codependent starts working hard to please the covert narcissist, which is, as I just mentioned, which is very damaging for their high level of stress and other anxiety and depression kind of problems. And that is why, for understanding covert narcissism, you have to understand the subtle signs that you start observing from the initial few interactions, so that you identify those red flags and take a step back in case you identify that you are dealing with a covert narcissist. The covert narcissist has an extremely low sense of self-worth and insecurities. These insecurities and low sense of self-worth is hidden and disguised by the covert narcissist in the form of superiority, and this superiority in the initial stages manifests in the form of shyness. So during the shyness phase, he's trying to understand his victim. He gives enough chances to the victim or the next supplier to speak up, so that he gets to understand their mind, what is going on in their mind, what kind of habits, hobbies, or what kind of interests they carry, so that they can be manipulated at a later stage. After the few initial interactions of shyness, he then moves on to love bombing stage. In the love bombing stage, actually the love bombing stage can be with anybody. It needn't be only with the romantic partner. It could be any kind of partner, co-worker, it could be colleague, it could be your boss, it could be somebody at home. depending on who the next supplier or victim could be. So in the love bombing stage, he adopts 3 strategies. The first strategy is to idealize the person and put him or her on a high pedestal and make him believe that he or she is absolutely amazing in every form. So the communication is going to be of the highest level, right from mails to telephonic calls to FaceTiming to messages. The person will be bombarded with too much of communication of all levels, and during this communication the narcissist is usually trying to make the person, he's himself idealizing the person. He makes the person feel so important, and if the person, the victim comes out to be codependent or an empath who was starved of this kind of communication, who was starved of by his caregivers, who was during his childhood was starved of basic needs of being visible, attended to by his caregivers, who was not made to feel important or whose emotions were not validated by his caregivers, who was made to feel invisible by his caregivers. So the dynamic just fits into like a piece of puzzle. So during this first strategy, he's sort of flooding the victim with too many messages, too much of communication, and putting him or her at a high pedestal and idealizing him or her, making him or her feel that they are absolutely amazing in every form. The second strategy that they adopt during the love bombing phase is narrating their sob stories to their new supply. Sob stories could be anything, ranging right from their childhood as to how their parents were unkind to them, how they were abused by their caregivers, how the college phase had been such a traumatic phase, how they have so much of financial worries today. They might be having world at their feet, they might be at a highly authoritative position, they might be having no financial worries in reality, but their sob stories will range from their sickness. They might be having, they'll project as if they have some kind of sickness, their family people have some kind of sickness, they have financial worries, they have undergone so much of trauma in their past, so much of painful experiences they've had in their past, which is basically grooming the victim to understand and let them manipulate them at a later stage. I'll come to this later. Basically, it is to groom their victim so that the victim remains prepared that when they come out with excuses at a later stage, that because he or she has these kind of problems and therefore he or she is not able to pay any attention to me at this point of time. The third strategy that they adopt is self-deprecating statements. So usually deep within they want to hear a lot of words of praise and admiration from their new supply or the new victim. So they come up with statements like, I cannot write very well, I cannot sing very well, I cannot dance very well, I cannot do this very well, anything that they feel is needed to be admired. They just go against that and speak in a self-deprecating manner to the new supply, so that the new supply says, oh no, I have noticed you write very well, you dance very well, you sing very well, you do this very well, and that gives them a sense of self-worth, that makes them feel good. And in case the victim or the new supplier does not praise them, they get very vindictive, they get very envious, and it makes them feel very vindictive towards the new supply. And this feeling of vindictiveness comes at a later stage when the victim completely gets plugged into the relationship. Now once the victim gets plugged in, there is a different facet of their personality that starts showing up, the layers start uncovering. And if the victim or the new supply is educated enough and is aware enough, watching, observing and analyzing these red flags becomes easier. So what are the red flags? The red flags mainly starts with the communication. What kind of communication? You'll usually notice that their actions do not really match their words. So if they talk big about integrity, they talk big about work ethics, high values, you'll gradually notice in a very subtle manner that what they say does not match what they do. So you will even find them doing things under the table, being involved in corruption, although on face of it, to the public and to the people around them, including the victim, they would always try to project as if they're very high in ethics and they do not ever compromise with their values. Another thing about communication, lying and deception comes very easy to them. So even when it is not required, they would lie. So just in case you fix up an appointment with them, they'll come up with an excuse, they'll cancel the appointment and come up with an excuse. Somebody has fallen sick at home, or they themselves have fallen sick, that is why they could not attend. So last minute cancelling of the appointment is a very normal thing for them. Another thing, gradually as your interactions improve with them, increase with them, what happens is you'll start noticing that they with respect to communication, they do not show, they themselves like to show talk a lot. They themselves would like to, initially during the love bombing phase, were a big talker, and about talking, there's one more thing, they are fast talkers. They talk very fast, so fast that the other party will rarely get a chance to interrupt and give their own point of view. And with respect to communication only, you'll usually gradually start noticing that their interest level starts decreasing in the supply. So it's like once the person gets hooked in and plugged in, that's where their inattentiveness, their non-interest starts showing up. So it becomes a one-way communication. So when they want to talk, they'll just go on and on, on and on, on and on, and the moment other person wants to speak, they'll be either yawning or they'll be showing complete disinterest in the communication. So gradually the victim or the supplier becomes starved for communication. They crave for communication. So communication is either one way, or during those punishment stages when they are angry with the victim, there is a total lack of communication, no communication at all during those phases. So there is one way communication or no communication at all. They simply cannot take no as an answer. They easily get wounded and hurt because of hearing no, or any kind of criticism. Even slightest of criticism wounds them and hurts them. Their ego is so fragile. So if you refuse to do something or as per their desire, they come up with statements like, I've done so much for you, but you refuse to do this little for me. If I suffer, it is your fault. In fact, covert narcissists always will have making statements that others are the ones who are responsible for all their sufferings. So anything that happens to them, or anything which happens anywhere in the surroundings, others are to be blamed. It is never their fault. They are either the victim or they are the hero. Another red flag that you can observe in covert narcissist is they initially suck the victim because of the certain qualities that they found in them. They get attracted to the victim because of certain traits that they found are very attractive in them. And the moment they get plugged into these supplies, they start finding the same faults. They start envying them, feeling jealous of these qualities, and they start that smear campaign of talking negative behind their back. And this talking negative is in a very subtle manner to their close friends, relatives, and whosoever comes across them. In a very subtle manner, they talk negative about them, saying that these people, this person has done something wrong to my family or to me. And it comes out in a very victimized kind of way. The statements are very victimized. Another red flag that you can see in covert narcissist is biggest weapon that they use is silent treatment. Silent treatment is when they in their mind are thinking that this person has hurt me, has wounded me, so he or she needs to be punished. So in their mind, they are punishing their victim. And how they punish their victim? By completely stopping the communication for weeks, for months, for year, depending on how long they feel hurt. And once they want to come out of it, they'll gradually come, and as if nothing has happened, they'll be very normally talking to their victim. So silent treatment, yes, is a very big weapon that they use for continuously long periods of time. They stop any kind of communication with their victim. In the silent treatment, what they do is to make the victim jealous, feel jealous. They'll be very politely talking to others. In the office sphere, they'll call the other people, they'll disregard and disvalue this victim and ignore them, neglect them completely, giving all the importance to other people around. In home also, what they do is they'll pick up phone, they'll call up their friends, they'll call up their relatives to make the other person feel small. That is what they do during silent treatment. And their ego, as I said, is so fragile, so they get easily hurt and easily wounded. So in case in the office sphere they notice 4 or 5 people sitting, they start assuming that these people must be talking about me, and that's where their vindictiveness starts showing. How? In case they are in an authoritative position, they'll start delaying the projects, they'll start delaying the payments, they'll start withdrawing proper communication, they'll start withdrawing finances, they'll start withdrawing all the basic approvals that the team might be requiring, because at some point of time they have seen 4 or 5 people sitting and talking, which in their mind is that assumption that these people are definitely discussing about me. That is the level of fragile ego these people operate with. As you get to know them closely, you will see how they hide their vulnerabilities, their insecurities behind a mask, and that mask is of negative emotions such as envy, jealousy, anger, rage, and usually they end up firing their own people in the team. So strange. That gives a certain kind of high to them. It is very strange. Even the studies and the literature goes out to prove that covert narcissists get certain kind of high by seeing people suffer, by seeing people in pain, by seeing people cry. In office sphere, if there is a hierarchy in which they have somebody on top of them, they definitely dislike that. They like the hierarchy in which they are in the top authoritative position, so that they can mess up the life of people down them. They can create the kind of confusion that they want, which gives them a sadistic kind of pleasure. I have seen myself, I've had 2 different bosses at different stages of my professional life. They simply enjoyed creating so much of fuss, so much of facade in the team, and the people had no idea as to why this is happening, creating confusion amongst the team, firing people, sending notices to people. It was such a kind of, when I look back, it was such a kind of stage performance which was happening, as if there's one single person who was treating everybody like puppets, and those puppets were made to fall, get up, and create some kind of scene and some kind of stage play all the time. So my dear friends, the actually intelligence lies in understanding these patterns. As I said initially, this video is not meant to dehumanize anybody. This is just meant to sensitize codependents about the traits that certain covert narcissists carry, so that once you start identifying these red flags, you at least do not make the mistake of plugging yourself in. You stay apart, you maintain a boundary with such people, you set boundaries with such people, you maintain a distance with such people, so that you do not end up damaging your own psyche, you do not end up damaging your own life. See, famous life coach Liza Romanov, she goes on to say that darkness does exist, so we must accept. It's not about hating, disliking, or having any kind of negative emotions towards anybody. It's about loving yourself. When you have that high amount of self-worth and self-love, you realize that I will not judge anybody. Do not judge anyone. Just have discernment. The discernment factor will help you understand that what is good, what is bad, and if there is a darkness around you, how to stay away from the darkness. Save yourself, my beautiful soul. This video is meant to help you understand the pattern, identify them, and stay protected and stay safe. I'll see you again in the next video. If you like this content, please hit like button and also subscribe to the channel. This helps support the channel grow to more and more people. Thank you so much. See you again in the next video. Peace, love and light.